Alright guys, so what we're going to be doing next is pretty much installing the spark plugs. The reason being is because we're about to throw on the intake manifold. So before we throw on the intake manifold, we're going to go ahead and swap out the spark plugs. So there are spark plugs that are provided with the kit. You just want to swap them in with those. So these are going to be the spark plugs. They come in this bag alone, like so. You're just simply just going to swap them out. If you guys don't know how to swap them out, it's pretty easy. You have a locking tab right here. Pull this out. Once you pull this locking tab out, you can squeeze the clip like so and pull out just like that. Pull out the ignition coil and there's a spark plug. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right guys, and I have the intake manifold installed now. So from here, I'm pretty much going to be putting on the washer fluid relocation kit. So pretty much we're going to grab this guy from our pile of turbo parts over here, and we're going to grab this. And before we put this on or mount it, we're actually going to be putting in the pump right here. So if we come over here and grab our OEM washer fluid reservoir, you're going to see that right here there is this pump. We're going to be taking this pump out. Taking it out is pretty easy. All I like to do is pretty much just make a cut right here, and that's going to allow this guy to get free like so. And after it's free, I'm pretty much going to bring this down here and pry it up on it like this, and it should pop right out like that. Also, don't forget to grab this little gasket that's also in there. So we're going to bring that gasket over here and we're going to put it inside first like this, and then we're going to go ahead and put in our pump. And just like that, our windshield wiper fluid pump is now installed. Let's go ahead and go grab the harness for it. So that harness for it, or that extension harness, is pretty much right here. So we're going to go ahead and grab this and plug it in like so. So this side is actually going to be coming over here to this harness right here. You guys remember that's the harness that comes along the engine bay right here and comes and shoots down like that. This is that same harness. So you're gonna grab this pigtail and this one, and then those two will match up together. But before we plug that in, let's go ahead and mount this. All right, so I do want to mention a few things before we actually mount this. The first thing is we're actually gonna need to rotate this just like that. Reason being is because that nipple, if you try to mount it the other way how we just had it, that nipple will face the firewall and you pretty much don't have enough room to put the hoses on. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our hose, and we're pretty much going to put this in like so. All right, and that's how that's gonna look. So now, another thing is, if you guys had this vacuum pipe back here, it does have to get removed, but then you notice that there's studs sticking out. You guys had to pretty much shave down these studs, or pretty much cut them off, shave them down for this to pretty much fit back there. Now everything is pretty much prepped for us to install this. Now we can go ahead and get our self-tappers in this bag over here, and these are 10mm again, and we're pretty much going to use these self-tappers to mount the washer fluid reservoir against that frame back there. All right, and just like that, our washer fluid reservoir relocation kit is pretty much installed, and we'll pretty much plug this stuff in later on. All right guys, so I pretty much wrapped up these two harnesses right here. I am going to remove the battery later on and do the under part of it. Down there you can see there's still some exposed. I'm going to go ahead and take out the battery later on and do that. But for now, I'm going to show you guys how to pretty much mount the fuse box and the power steering bracket. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go ahead and get this guy, and we're going to get this guy, because these two are pretty much your brackets for it. All right guys, so I actually had to end up modifying the reservoir a little bit. So on the top and bottom part, there are these like grooves that stick out on it. So like right here and right here, I basically had to shave them down all the way. And then also this bracket, I had to enlarge it just a little bit for it to fit properly. So keep in mind that if you're gonna use this bracket, you are going to do some modifications still, or you can use the OEM bracket. To use the OEM bracket, all you're going to do really is just cut this side off, and then you're going to be using this part to hold it in place. So either bracket you want to use, you can still do it. All right guys, so we're going to be using this bracket now. So what we're going to be doing is coming to the intake manifold, and as you can see, there's these two little bolts sticking out on top. This bracket simply just goes like this, and then you're going to get these two nuts that come on top of it and pretty much tighten it down. Then from our bag of bolts and nuts, we're gonna come and get a long bolt, a washer, and this nut. All right, and this is how it's going to look like once you mount it. So the fuse box is gonna face like this. You're gonna have the bolt come from the bottom up. Then you're gonna put the 10mm locking nut right there. And then the bracket will get sandwiched in between, just like so. So for our power steering lines, we're pretty much gonna do it the same way how we did the cooling lines. We're gonna pretty much route it to where it needs to be. And once we get it to where it needs to be, we're pretty much gonna cut it to length, okay? So we're gonna do that for the big hose and for the small hose. All right guys, so our power steering reservoir is now mounted and our fuse box and the lines are ran to it. Don't forget guys to also put the hoses back on those lines down there for the power steering. I'm about to do that right now. So after I put on the hoses onto those barbs right there, we're going to go ahead and start putting on the intercooler piping. All right guys, so in order to put on our intercooler piping, there are going to be a few things that we need to shave off. So in my case, I'm just going to use a Sawzall and my dermo to cut off a few things. So the first thing we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be cutting this off on both sides. See how it's on both sides? We're gonna cut this off. So I'm gonna repeat this on the other side and then I'll show you what else we have to cut off. Perfect, so now this is cut off. So now what we're gonna be doing is, you see how there's like a little hole right there? Well, right on here, you're pretty much going to trim this piece all the way out to right here. Just like so, and then we're gonna repeat the same thing on that side. And now this is cut off. And lastly guys, we're gonna be cutting off this right here. So be careful not to cut this off. You're gonna wanna stop yourself before you hit this, but we have to cut this off. All right, and just like that, that's how you're gonna wanna cut it. And we're pretty much gonna repeat on the other side. All right, and just like so, now that one is cut to length. So first, before I actually start putting in the intercooler piping, we're gonna go ahead and start like connecting like the coolant hoses. I'm gonna also put on my AC lines right here. And then the fan shroud, we're actually gonna have to cut up the fan shroud a little bit, and I'm gonna show you guys in a second where we have to trim it. All right guys, so we got our radiator fan here. I'm gonna show you guys real quick what we had to take off exactly, our trim off. This is more better to use an oscillating tool, or if you have a dermo with the cutting wheel, this is gonna be better to use that instead of the Sawzall. So what you're gonna need to take off, if you come up here, this is pretty much the top of the car where the radiator sits at. So this is pretty much where the top of the car is. For example, the coolant reservoir sits right here. So right under here, right under it, we're pretty much gonna be taking all this off, all the way down to right here. And what I mean by all the way off is you're pretty much gonna be cutting like right here. Right here, you're pretty much gonna be cutting like right here at the very lip right there, the whole way up. And then you're gonna have to cut these, and you're also gonna cut these little support bars as well. And then right here, you're gonna have to shave these down as well. These little fins that are coming out, you have to shave these down. On the right side, we're pretty much gonna do the same thing, except we're starting like right here. We're shaving all of these, we're shaving these little fins down, and we're gonna be coming up all the way to right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting this down, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like afterwards. Not the prettiest, but this is how it's gonna look like. So again, you're trimming from up here all the way to right here, and then you're gonna start on this leg and go all the way over here to that. So that's pretty much everything that you're gonna need to trim. Now we're pretty much gonna reinstall this and start mounting up the intercooler piping.